Modern families come in all forms, but dads still play an important role in most cases. Yet, with almost no paternal mental health services and age-old gender stereotypes, are new fathers being failed?
Men are famously poor at talking about their feelings, talking about what they're going through, and actually we're starting to see that that's having really negative consequences.
The most loneliest time in my life was going through depression with my son and my wife, because I couldn't tell anyone.
This is the story of the stigma and loneliness that many dads face.
Same-sex couple mums. Nor is this a mums versus dads debate. Nor am I pontificating only about married parents, not least because that would make me a hypocrite. I simply want to speak up for the many brilliant dads out there who are doing an incredible job in an evolving society when it comes to bringing up children, and highlight some of the real challenges they face too.
The fact that MPs are still debating the role of fathers in 2019 shows our society is still based upon some really traditional gender stereotypes. I mean, I went to this debate a few months ago, led by Tory MP Tracy Crouch, and I was really shocked to see how many male MPs responded by sharing their really raw experiences of fatherhood. And the point of the debate was about loneliness among new fathers and about the lack of support systems in place.
Now, one aspect of parenthood that can impact on well-being is loneliness. The more we all acknowledge loneliness as an issue, the quicker we will reduce the stigma.
The opinion here seems unanimous. A better supported father is a better supported mother and family network, but nothing since the debate really seems to have happened to provide that support or change anything. I want to speak to dads about their experiences of fatherhood, paternity leave and mental health. John is from Buckinghamshire, and like most dads, he got the normal paternity leave allowance of just 2 weeks. But is that really enough time to bond with your child and adapt to becoming a parent?
Yeah, obviously Becky grew Harry for 9 months, so I was completely disengaged with the whole thing because it's not going through me, and you know, you see your wife transform into number two. But yeah, until he was born, you as a dad, you don't really realise there's a change happening, and then he comes and your world gets turned upside down.
Typical boy.
It was tough because Becky had she was in and out of hospital. So it was, the 4 days you were in hospital?
4 days in hospital afterwards.
So that was tough. So you find yourself looking back at pictures of when the birth happened, and you know that sort of gets you through the day, and you might phone your wife and she doesn't answer, and you start panicking, going, oh no, what's happened? And then she'll phone back saying, oh sorry, I was just changing a nappy, I missed your call. So, you know, you do find yourself a bit on edge for the first few weeks because it is so new. You do miss quite a lot of it as a working dad.
Just by meeting Becky and John, it's really evident that becoming a new parent can be really exciting but also so stressful at times, and there aren't many structures in place for new fathers. John had 2 weeks paternity leave, Becky was in hospital for 4 days of that, and then he had to go back to a 9-to-5 job, and that's not time to bond with your child at all. The whole thing to me just seems really isolating and quite high pressure. I mean, I'm not a parent myself, but I've definitely seen so many groups out there that support mums and connect mums, and I'm really just interested to know if there's any of those for dads. During my research, one organisation stood out. Dope Black Dads have a WhatsApp network and a podcast talking about what it's like to be a dad and aims to challenge the stereotype of black fatherhood. One of the Dope Black Dads in particular, Tope, uses music and social media to express his feelings about becoming a father. But I was interested to know why he thinks racial stereotypes still exist, with something so biological as being a parent. Do you not think in 2019 it's a shame that that stereotype still needs to be challenged?
Literally just a community, I guess, of black men who are saying that, no, we are fathers, we are here, and we're trying to make the best of our situations, whether those are people who are married, or they were in relationships and they're separated. But the premise is, the overarching premise is that we're here to be there for our children.
It seems to me that everyone that we've spoken to so far say that it's all dads need is really a safe place to talk and just talk about being a dad.
I think there has to be, especially that mental support for men, because we don't talk, but sometimes we do, and we just need that environment to be able to talk and feel it is a safe space. I think, men definitely need it. If we say men don't talk, cool, create the spaces for men to speak and just help them go through their own issues and their emotions. Because I think that only provides a nice, healthy balance where the woman might be being taken care of, but also the man as well. And when they come together, or whoever it might be, it's much more easier than a guy just suffering in silence. A lot of men, we just suffer in silence.
One of the main things that struck me about the support Tope gets from Dope Black Dads is that it seems so simple. Men just need a space to talk about their experiences so that fatherhood is much less lonely. So I travelled to Chelsea, where a group of dads have breakfast every Saturday. Dad's House is an organisation whose simple motto is helping dads be dads.
Dad's House is a social activity that is so important where dads can be dads.
Do you think fatherhood without projects like this can be quite a lonely place?
Oh yeah, absolutely. From my own experience when my son was younger, Sam was a year old when I started looking after him full time. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to go. I was too ashamed to ask for help, and because I didn't want anyone to know that I couldn't cope or the thought of not being able to cope, and that's where Dad's House is so important.
Dads tend not to network with dads. They network with lots of people, but with other dads, they've got lots of things in common. They've got problems they can talk about. They've got issues they can talk about. The kids, they can, bounce ideas off each other and inspire each other. And one dad might be doing something that another dad is scared to take a step on, maybe working for themselves or changing jobs, and they've got all these ideas, and that network is very strong. Before I met Billy, I felt quite isolated, very isolated, and it was just by chance, and I was searching for somebody to talk to, and I got Billy's number through some networks, and I called him, and that was it. As a dad or as a man, you try not to reach out, because you have to be strong, you have to be tough, but nobody's tough and strong when it comes to something. It's not just a stigma, it's a feeling that you have to be.
The biggest killer of men under the age of 50 is suicide, and it's likely that many of those are fathers. But the conversation around men's mental health has only opened up in recent years. According to the Centre for Social Justice, 69% of new fathers feel like a spare part. But why do so many men feel like this, and what can be done to make parenthood more inclusive? Frank Young is the Director of Family Policy for the CSJ, and he's a father himself.
So we've come forward with a big recommendation for the NHS, for children's services, that they should come together and create what we've called a dad test. A dad test is a really simple idea that within the inspection, those inspection frameworks, we put together a simple statement that says to any professional involved in the process, you need to have regard for fathers, you need to have regard for the person standing there holding the person's hand who's giving birth.
I was concerned about the possible link between the fact that new fathers feel isolated and that male suicide levels are dangerously high. When it comes to fathers and mental health, there's little said, but I did see a recent progression: International Fathers Mental Health Day. One of the co-founders of this awareness day is Mark Williams. He travels around the country talking about his own experiences with fatherhood and depression.
The most loneliest time in my life was going through depression with my son and my wife, because I couldn't tell anyone. 30 years of age, I thought I was totally prepared. My wife had an emergency C-section. I had my first ever panic attack. What I saw in that labour ward, and also I thought my wife and baby was going to die. As you know now, that's PTSD. It's an anxiety disorder, either witnessing or experiencing a life-threatening event. There's loads of factors why men and women get post-depression. So, like I said, it's about educating people as well. And if you think it's hormonal, There's a testosterone change in fathers as well during this time. So like you said, the biggest killer in men now is 50, and we're not even screening fathers for their mental health. And you've got the World Health Organization doesn't recommend screening fathers for their mental health, only mothers. When over 500,000 male suicides are happening each year, and we're not even talking about fathers' mental health, which is shocking.
I find it a bit outdated that the World Health Organization doesn't recommend screening for fathers.
Nice guidelines only mention about fathers. We've got to have a more holistic approach, because by supporting both parents, it has far better outcomes for that child's development.
Mark's anxiety and depression was made worse by the loneliness. As a man and a father, he felt he couldn't tell anyone, but he wasn't alone. In fact, 1 in 10 fathers suffer depression during the pregnancy period, and dads are 25% more likely to suffer it if their partner also has postnatal depression. As of 2019, the NHS have pledged to provide support for partners of mental health sufferers. But is this enough? Or is there more that government and society can do to raise awareness and challenge the stigma? Tracy Crouch, who first led the debate in Parliament about fathers, is also a former Minister for Loneliness.
So let's go back to a few months ago when you led a debate in Parliament about supporting fathers in the early parental period. What stimulated that?
It was easier for me as a woman to raise the issue of supporting fathers after birth, because actually many fathers would stand up and feel instantly guilty about raising it when there are still so many maternity issues that we have to deal with. But I felt that it was the right thing to do, and I'm really pleased that the fathers, my colleagues, male colleagues, came forward and spoke as they did.
So currently, what options are there for fathers in terms of support and paternity leave, and what more needs to be done?
Well, I think fathers quite often feel isolated because they're afraid to ask for help, that it's something that it would be sort of frowned upon or not considered sympathetically. But also, we need to make sure that the services are being delivered are actually parent and toddler groups, not mother and baby groups. We need to make sure that we have the right technology in place to support fathers so that they can look to see if there are other fathers on shared parenting leave that they can go and have a cup of coffee with. So I think there's a lot of things that we ought to do, that just actually small changes that will make a world of difference to the loneliness of stay-at-home dads.
Since meeting them a month ago, Becky and John have welcomed baby number 2 into the world. This time they're taking shared parental leave, which will give John a further 3 months off work to really feel part of the early parenting process.
Within a week of me discussing it the first time around, they changed their policy. So originally it was the first 6 months full pay. Now they've changed it to full 12 months full pay.
While apprehensive about being a stay-at-home parent without many other dads to talk to, John admits to also feeling excited and much more involved.
I just think men in general aren't as good at networking as women. I generally think that. Maybe I'm being a bit sexist, but...
Having a good gossip.
Yeah, I think men are a bit more guarded, and we're quite happy to stay within our sort of initial friend network, and it's quite difficult to break into a new friend group.
Good boy, gently.
The exciting thing for me is that 3 months with James and Harry a little bit, but he'll be in nursery for most of it. So I'll get to know him a lot more, which I think is really important. So.
In the majority of cases, parenting is about a partnership. Our NHS might be stretched to the limit, but there are some really simple solutions. Testing dads for mental health, social networking and community organisations, to name just a few.
Society needs to change its attitudes towards fathers, recognise that there is equal parenting, and actually that we shouldn't consider a father as a bit role or a part of the of bringing up a child.
And the other solution? Greater awareness that the role of fathers is not only an incredibly important one, but one that requires emotional well-being. And when it comes to bringing up a child, the stress, the challenges and the pressure all seem worth it.
It's fantastic. It drives you crazy, but it keeps you sane.
Yeah, I wouldn't change it for the world. I love being a dad.